A very good afternoon to respected my dear students. I think you are seeing the slides now.
Yes, sir.
You are seeing slides, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, sir. So we have come across important. What are all the standard level of security protections which are very essentially required for setting up the technological aspects, especially protection, privacy, and robustness of all and all set of networks. So, beginning with firewall, one of the technology which enrich various other levels in the form of external as well as internal architecture. If you see the level of packet filtering, similarly like application gateway, so circuit gateway, then the MAC layer approaches, so various other aspects which are comes to a picture. But one important relay of the environment which clearly focus, if you look at like protection of virtual network. See, already complete environment of the network having a public. The name itself only should to understand a protection of a public network acts like a private network. How instead of like a real way of protecting, we can go for virtual way. We can call it as virtual private networks. Private and secure network connections between number of systems. If you take any entrepreneurship, any educational university, institutions, organization, MNCs, a number of divisions are there, number of sections are there. Number of divisions are there, number of sections are there. If they are going to be make use one to another with respect to the standard flow, then you can call it as private network. So they are their own maintainable, monitoring, admiring various type of devices connectivity and the flow of an exchange which are going to be protected. Similarly, the exchange flow which are going to be control and limit from one location to another location. You can say uses of data communication capability of unsecured and public network. See, already network having a insecurity. In order to manage, you can make sure how the private network which cope up with various other configure level virtually which avoid a number of insecurity flow. A chances of data steal, chances of device which are going to be damaged, chances of any sort of a gateway or the important of network productivity which are going to be not cope up with full-fledged security, then now we can go for configuring a whole set of a network in an organization being a virtual private network, which extends any entrepreneurship, any organization, internal network connects to remote location behind trusted network. We have to see the category of the untrusted network, similarly trusted network, and we can easily manage, need not to go to the office, need not to go to the organization, need not to go to the industry. Is it possible to maintain the level of security in a remote fashion without any interruption of the day-to-day activities. Especially in case of VPN, so which can be defined three different levels of strategies. One is a trusted virtual known factor, which are going to be maintained, which are going to be adherable to the, which are adapt to the within the network paradigm are trusted. Similarly, secure. See, need not to be touch all those things. No problem at all. Based on that one only, you have to be believe the devices, so believe the user who are all working with the trusted VPNs. Secure VPN. Just you take an example. If any authority of the CEO, similarly, administration, they have their own personal secretary, personal, correct? No, they used to be dependable on their work strategies. They need not to be by the morning what they work, correct? No, if something goes wrong, also they all and so responsibility of those persons, PA, personal assistant to personal secretary. We can call it as trusted virtual private network. Other than that one, if you go for a security maintainable with a set of algorithms, so technological way of implementation or incorporation, you can call it as secure virtual private networks. Combined together of TVPN, no, SVPN, and we can say hybrid VPN level of setup to protect most of the data. See in that one, which are going to be accomplished. Generally, what we observe there, device itself only take the majority of the flow, but how the any sort of an information flow which are going to be transmitting from a top layer to the bottom layer. We can call it as how the wrapping of an exchange flow from the image, audio, video. That concept is called encapsulation. Encapsulation of incoming and outgoing data. We are getting a money from RBI, correct? Now, RBI automatically which distribute to the respective branches of a various other nationalized bank. We have a complete trusted way. Why? How you are keeping the, correct? No, instead of keeping in my home, in our home, in our location, insecure location, no, we trusted on banking environment because which are going to be encapsulate the flow of an information from the higher authority to the lower authority to the satisfaction of the customer. That indicates the encapsulation of incoming and outgoing data. That one is with respect to the data flow. Still further, if you go for like encryption of incoming and outgoing data, beginning itself only. See what is the text message is going to be transferred from here. This particular message can open only the user X. This particular image can open only by Y. This particular multimedia of the data open only by Z user, like that way. Then you have to encrypt. Similar fashion, there should be a decryption. You can say encryption of the encapsulating data, both incoming and outgoing data. See, we can observe easily here. One is a data security with the process of encapsulation, because in which way from the top layer to the bottom layer, and reverse fashion like a bottom layer to the top layer, de-encapsulation. But in every step of a layer, there should be a security. You can call it as encryption, a process which is going to be carried to identify the authentication, to recognize the flow in the form of confidentiality, and the integrity, we can call it as encryption of incoming and outgoing data. Same way, authentication of remote computer. See, we are going outside. Great Mr. Alias coming from the outside and he are using. If he has a user login of 192.163.200, he should have an ideal network connectivity from his country. He can log in from there itself also. We can say because he is the authenticated user. Authentication of remote computer and perhaps remote user as well. It need not to be just within the regional space, within the premise, from anywhere else. If a user is trusted one within the organization, then the process of authentication of remote computer as well as remote user level, these are the important aspect of virtual private networks. And the mode of data transmission. See, we mentioned very clearly the encapsulation process, so encryption process. So the encapsulation basically identify the error freeness, especially in case of a transport layer, data within IP packet is encrypted, but header information is not. See the standard format of that one. Anywhere else, the flow of an exchange going to be take place between source and the destination. Address we can't change. Address having its own standard level of spec of the identification. 16 bits so port number specification, no. 32 bits address specification, no. 6 bytes of the Ethernet address specification. But data within the IP packet is encrypted. If you are using like a wireless LAN, if you are using like a Wi-Fi, you are using like a WiMAX, there depending on what type of a media you're using, according that one, IP packet is going to be encrypted. See, the standard format of the IP consists of header, consists of offset, consists of payload, consists of address. If you just get into the cross section of IP, not only length of a complete address, which provides having its own parameters, but the header information is not going to be authenticated. Only IP packet, whatever the data stored, any type of a wire or a wireless connectivity they are using based on that one, which are going to be encrypted, which permit all users to establish secure link directly with remote host, such a way that there should be a registration, not just easily you can allow a user, but there should be a registration entry. You might be come across, correct? No, you are using a login, then there should be another login to identify you already the user of any other, correct? No, there should be an entry based on that one. If you keep on do that one, already user exists, then it won't allow. Then you can go for another level, forget password, many things you might be observed. These are how regularly, practically we are experiencing ourselves. Encrypting only data contents of packets, not like a secure link directly with a remote host, which are going to be encrypt the data, which are whatever the contents of the data, it may be image, audio, video, text. Some of the important meritorious aspects of a transport mode is end-to-end transport of encrypted data. See, one, that particular data should be protected for the specific user. A particular user only can able to see that one. Particular user only can open that one. Particular user only can access that one. That's why the end-to-end transport of encrypted data. See, end-to-end is the beginning point to the end target point. Wherever it may be, focusing very clearly, that is going to be manageable. Remote access worker connects to the office network over internet by connecting VPN server. See, we can make use remotely any sort of a services as simple as like in which we are working physically office, correct? Now, instead of calling a person who is there in front of the system, we can say alert, I am going to make use a VPN, virtual private network, for a security purpose like that. These are the two important popular advantages. See a simple schematic diagram, a pictorial representation, which will give a very understanding manner. See, person who is a tell worker, client machine encrypted data and sent to the target machine with unencrypted header. Or else you can say a person who is a client machine requests a intranet, internally trusted network using a transport mode, VPN, then the client machine acts as locally connected. That means to say Within the intranet connectivity, if we have from one lab to another lab, software lab 1, software lab 2, you can identify who are all using, correct? No? Locally, you can through. A remote VPN server acts like an intermediate client and encrypted. See, through the device of a switch, of a gateway, of a router, which provide a full-fledged encryption and decryption traffic flow between to and fro, wherever it may be, client is going to be accessible. But who are all responsible? What we observe like encapsulation and encryption process of data, encryption and encryption usually in presentation layer, but encapsulation process which are going to be through a transport layer. Destination client machine receives encrypted data and decrypted. Say that one. These are the flow of an information coming from the VPN, no? Which goes to be secure forum and identify such a way that which are going to be usable throughout the network. You can say some sort of a new word, tunnel mode. The tunnel mode is basically creating a logic level of a channel. Organization established two bit tunnel servers, see, which are going to be well established for the flow of an exchange between source and destination, a logical level of a traffic road, we can say that is like a way. We can call it as tunnel mode. This server acts like an encryption point, so encrypting all traffic that will traverse unsecured network without interrupting whatever the flow which are going to be entertained, in which way the data which are going to be manageable in secure manner, which moves towards tunnel. What are all the advantages of this thing? This particular model, intercepted packet reveals nothing about true destination. See, or it may be the internal user available X acts like a source, Z acts like a destination. In between, you can identify multiple number of users, X1, X2, X of n. Similarly, Z before that one, connectivity. They may not come across who are all working, what sort of a flow which are going to be, which specifically meant for maintaining security flow with the help of tunnel mode. Example of tunnel mode today presently available like Microsoft Internet Security and ISA. You can call it as Internet Acceleration Server. Similarly, another one you can call it as Microsoft Internet Security. These are the two important productivity which are available for managing virtual private network. See the setup of the environment. Nothing else. What we have observed, the flow of an trusted network and the untrusted network, which configured the level of creating a logical channel between one VPN server to another VPN server. One VPN server is acts like correct, no? The trusted network. Another one is acts like a trusted network. In order to manage, so please keep in mind this particular figure, the pictorial representation shows very clear there should be a line of representation. There should be a dark line of representation which flow from one virtual private network server to another virtual private server. There should be encapsulation. There should be the process of encryption, both. VPN server encrypts client packets and places as data in packet address for remote VPN server. It will tell you, I can understand what type of a data, this particular data, who is going to be sent, where it's going to be correct, no, manageable with that one. That is the characteristic or the principal operations of VPN server. Same manner like a client receives unencrypted packet. In which way? Within the network of a trusted network. Similarly, in which way? The another way, untrusted network, which are combined together, perform the flow of an exchange in a tunnel fashion. For that is called tunnel mode of. See, we create a flow of an exchange, X of virtual private network server, Y of virtual private network server, which gather the flow of an exchange with the help of V virtual tunnel mode. We can call it as virtual private network VT, having to perform both encryption as well as encapsulation process. See, what it means to say is firewall technology which realize very clearly to understand how we can go for protecting the flow of data between one to another with the help of packet filtering, with the help of application gateway configuration, which are very relevant to the application layer. Packet filtering, once again, a transport level. Circuit gateway, once again, in which way the internet. Similarly, MAC layer. Further, these are all the different type of a technological. Various approach to remote and dial-up access protection. See, we observed very clearly, we are using from our cellular phone directly goes to the other end of California, other end of like a Qatar, other end of like a Ceylon, or even New Delhi or Mumbai, wherever it may be. A combination of a dial-up access as well as private network and the public network. We can say how we can easily protect the data. We can call this content filtering technology with the help of standard virtual private networks. Please keep in mind, I have given a very clear picture about what are all the factor information which are very essentially required for configuring a full-fledged security of a firewall as well as virtual private network. Virtual private network which acts like a tunneling mode of an option with the help of encryption and as well as encapsulation process. Still one more, another technology of a security, you can call it as ID, intrusion detection, access control, and other security tools. We'll follow like what are all the things we can understand after studying. We can easily identify, describe the categories and the operating models of IDS, intrusion detection system. So this is one of the important technology in order to manage very full-fledged security in any organization, any entrepreneurship, any educational institution, as well as university premise. Identify and describe honeypots, honey-nets, and padded cell systems. So, and we can easily mention and define the major category of various scanning and analysis of various tools. So, what type of tools we are using for managing IDS. So, similarly, what are the methods of access control and the biometric process which are involved? We will go one by one. See, introductory overview of the intrusion. You say intrusion. There should be some sort of attack on a data and exchange unit. Abstract, you say information, property, any property which relate to, you can call it as an asset, in which, or it may be attempts, attackers to gain entry into disrupt system with harmful intent. Purpose of that one is making insecurity, stealing, and which are going to be overrule the benefit of the organization. The process is called intrusion. Attack which are going to be find out and interact with various assets of the informations purposely, which are going to be disrupt the whole system, and obviously the impact of that one is harmful of the organization. Incident response, identification of, classification of, response to and recovery from an incident. Something goes way of intrusion, something goes way of managing, something goes with the maintenance. Then you have to identify and you have to categorically, you have to be classes of those things, and in which way the response is going to be happen from a number of users, so number of devices, so even network also, and recovery from an incident. And how we are going to be prevent, we can call it an intrusion prevent, consists of various other type of an activities or the tasks which are going to be executed in order to determine any sort of intrusion detection system from how it's happening, the level of how which are going to be protecting, we can find out. There is a procedure involving, in case of intrusion, and systems created and operated to detect system intrusion. A step-by-step procedure which are involving to identify in which way the attacks happen and what are the certain steps which are there in order to gather the flow of an intrusion. The second one, what it says, reaction, which encompasses actions and the organization readily undertakes, and you can find out a chances of detection which are going to be intrude further, no effect which are going to be take place later stage also. And once the intrusion detection, intrusion reaction, and the correction activities, you have to finalize the restoration of operation, bringing to the normal stage of whole set of network in a secure manner. That's why we have two various intrusion detection system. Similarly, how the flow of information like prevention system, you can call it as IDS and also IPS. Detect a violation of its configuration and activate alarm. You have to be alert, aware, such a way that when the chances of activity which are going to be violate. Similarly, intrusion detection system enable administrator to configure by them going to be trouble. We can send a message, we can send an email, we can just Twitter, we can do whatever it may be in order to identify who are all going to be make a violation of whole system in an insecure manner. Systems can be configured to manage, notify external security service organization, and step by step, which goes to be provide how the IDS happens, how the IPS, intrusion detection and the intrusion prevention system, which are going to be manageable whole system of services. Various other terminology which are there, both intrusion detection as well as prevention system terminology. Alert or alarm, you have to give a bell and say that one, this should not happen and how which are going to be manageable. False attack stimulus, which are against the attack, and there should be negative flow, and the false positive, there should be chance of extra variable like a noise. So site policy awareness, so truck attack stimulus, so confidence. Well, these are various terminology which are the part of intrusion detection and prevention system. If any sort of a problems which are going to be increase, then a chances of risk, and how we are going to be punish those things with a problem of prevention. And one way is detect attacks and other security violation, identify the attacks, and what way we can go for limit which are not going to be happening once again. Detect and deal with permeable to attacks. Is it possible to give precautionary measuring flow of the permeable which are not going to be happening in detection as well as prevention. Document existing threat to an organization. You have to be maintained if these things going to be one man is going to be attacked, group of team are going to be attacked. Similarly, system is going to be attacked, chances of a hanging strategy, and similarly suddenly the whole set of information become blank, empty, correct? Now, various. In all the cases, there should be a remarkable comments. We can call it documentary exist. Act as a quality control for security design. You can go for administration, a full-fledged security, especially in case of a large and complex MNC. So, especially in case of large and complex educational institutions, so which are going to be provide a set of an environment. What are the categories or the classes of intrusion detection preventions, IDP? Operates at network base and the host base. See, these are the occurrence going to be intrusion and the detection and the prevention happens to be take place between one side is on network based, another side is host based, because the whole set of nodes which are connected through the network, we can classify how we can identify the operations which are going to be performed on host based, similarly network based. All intrusion detection systems use one of these detection methods. Say signature base. See, all we have come across. If you are sending mail without any identity based on the registration of that one signature, correct? No, even though finally, thanks with regards, whatever it may be, you are not giving a very clear picture about also. From the through the SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, you can easily identify who is the person sending the mail, a signature based and statistical anomaly based. We can find out how many times he logged in, no, even though misusing go. We can through gather, correct? That's why only if you go for creating any sort of email ID, they used to ask date of birth too, and various other identification of. If something goes wrong, then they can easily get the flow of an information and they extract from statistical anomaly based. Stateful packet inspection. We have already come across the IP base. One is a signature based and the available log based. Similarly, third one is nothing but IP based packet flow. See the structure of that one, which will give a very clear picture about if something goes wrong, zeros and which are going to be execute on the rack server, which are the zeros and one wherever it may be, and examining the data in a files and stored on host and alerts such a way that overall the system administrator take the responsibility of how which are going to be manageable, which comes from the untrusted network, which comes from the network IDS, so which comes from the trusted network or which comes from the external router, which are all true. There should be a complete routing table manageable on the server itself only. That's why which are going to be intrusion detection system. If you go with one by one, how we can understand of what is meant by network-based IDPS, intrusion detection prevention system. We can say NIDPS, which reside on computer, which applications, whatever they rely on advent of connectivity and which are going to be make a segment based within the organization of a network looks for chances of attacking with signatures we can say how which are going to be attacks flow which happen to be when examining the packets network based idps especially network intrusion detection prevention system looks for attack pattern a setup 1 2 3 4 5 what we have observed on the server no rolling install at specific place in a network where it can watch traffic going into and find out when it's going to be happen at what level what sort of a processing which are going to be take place so how which are going to be interact with the next level of a network segment too all we can identify easily through the network based idps similarly network intrusion detection prevention system signature mapping detect an attack look for attack pattern done by using a special way of implementation with the help of transmission control protocol internet protocol stack. See, we feel to be say, I don't know who are all going to be managed. There should be a stack, there should be a log table, there should be a history which are available. At any time we logged in, at any time you are going to be logged out, which are going to be identified with the sign of TCP IP stack. The process of protocol stack verification network intrusion detection processing system looks for invalid data packet. If any chances which are not going to be matchable, which are not going to be mapped, then there should be a chance of attacking happen or not. Especially in case of application protocol verification. If you go for browsing, if you go for online transaction, if you go for chatting, if you go for like emailing, there the protocol verification, each and every services, each and every application have their own protocol, that is also going to be verified. Higher order protocol, you can say SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. Similarly, motif protocol, so standard level of a protocol which are going to be executed above the IP, above the TCP, above the UDP, user data graph. You can easily examine and for unexpected packet behavior or improper usage of that one. We are not in a position to find out in network layer which are all the protocols called IP. Similarly, ARP, RARP, ICMP, IGMP. Similarly, not in a position to identify the packets attack in the transport layer like a TCP and the UDP. But finally, we can easily identify the flow of an exchange of an attack in application layer. What are the merits and the demerits of network intrusion detection prevention system secured? One, good network design and placement of network intrusion prevention system can enable the organization to use few devices to monitor large network. We need not to go for full-fledged of a secured flow of a gateway, of like a packet filtering, of like a circuit level of VPNs. But we can make use a few devices to monitor full-fledged network within the organization, and which are usually passive and can be deployed into existing network with little disruption to normal. See, passive in the sense any without any power supply, without which are going to be managed such a way that how which are going to be glowing state of maintaining a log table. We can connect anywhere within the full-fledged network. We can call it as passive devices, not usually susceptible to direct attack and may not be detectable by attackers. See, one of the disadvantages which are not going to be long time to detect an attack